Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. You reach for your phone. Something feels different. You grab the remote. Every anchor on screen, a woman. Every reporter on the ground, a woman. Because overnight, every single man on Earth simply vanished. You run to the front door, you throw it open, and sees nothing. No neighbors, no sounds, just empty streets as far as the eye can see. Every man, her father, her brother, her neighbor, gone. And you are not alone in this discovery. Every woman on Earth is waking up to the same terrifying reality. Women across the world step outside their homes confused and frightened. A young woman rushes to her phone and calls her father. No answer. She calls her brother. Straight to voicemail. She calls her boyfriend. Nothing. Just silence on the other end. At the same time, in a hospital across the city, female doctors and nurses rush through empty corridors. Every male doctor, every male nurse, every male patient vanished from their beds. Even male newborn babies in the maternity ward, without a trace. In the streets, female police officers try to maintain order as panic spreads. But even the police are struggling to process what is happening. And now the biggest question of all begins to form in every woman's mind. What happens next? Can the world survive without men? Within hours, the news spreads across every television screen on Earth. A female news anchor sits behind her desk, trying to hold herself together. She looks directly into the camera and says the words nobody was prepared to hear. Every man on Earth has disappeared. In government buildings, world leaders gather in emergency meetings. A female president stands up at the head of the table. She slams her hand on the table. We must not panic. We must think clearly. The world is now in our hands. But outside those government walls, the panic is already spreading. Women are rushing to supermarkets grabbing food and supplies. Shelves are emptying within minutes. Nobody knows how long this will last. Nobody knows if the men are ever coming back. As the hours pass, the reality of what has happened begins to sink deeper into your heart and mind. You look around your home and see his jacket still hanging by the door, his shoes still sitting on the floor, his coffee mug still on the kitchen counter. Everything he left behind is still here. But he is not. And this feeling is not just yours. It is being felt by billions of women all around the world at this exact same moment. Meanwhile, in the city, the streets that were once full of life are now eerily silent. Construction sites stand completely abandoned. Half-built buildings frozen in time, power stations running low with nobody to operate them. City lights begin flickering as power grids struggle without their operators. A group of women gather together in the darkness of the neighborhood, armed with torches and determination. One of them steps forward and says something that changes everything. We've always been strong enough. We just never had to prove it until now. By the next morning, something unexpected begins to happen. You wake up. And for the first time since the disappearance, you do not cry. You stand up, you look at yourself in the mirror, and you make a decision. You're not going to fall apart. Not today. Across the city, women begin taking over roles they have never held before. A woman who has never touched a wrench in her life crawls under a broken water pipe. She has no idea what she is doing, but she is doing it anyway. And when the pipe finally stops leaking, she lets out a scream of pure victory. But not every challenge can be solved with a wrench and a tutorial video. The world's armies are completely leaderless. Fighter jets sit grounded on runways with no pilots to fly them. Warships sit in harbors. Tanks sit in fields. The weapons of the world silent for the first time in human history. 3 days have now passed since every man on Earth vanished. And you're starting to notice something surprising. The world is quieter, but it is not falling apart as fast as everyone feared. In fact, something remarkable is beginning to emerge from the chaos. Women are organizing. Women are communicating. Women are building systems from nothing. Scientists gather in laboratories around the world facing the most urgent question in human history. Without men, the human race cannot reproduce naturally. The clock is ticking. They have approximately 25 to 30 years before the last generation of humans born before the disappearance grows old. After that, without a solution, humanity simply ends. But then one scientist makes a discovery that shocks the entire world. She runs to her colleagues screaming. She grabs the lead scientist by the shoulders. "I found it. I think I actually found it." We do not need men to reproduce. The news of the discovery spreads across the world within minutes. You are sitting in your living room when your phone lights up with an emergency alert. You pick it up, you read the words on the screen, and your hands begin to shake. Scientists have discovered a way for women to reproduce without men. The human race will survive. Within days, the world reacts in two completely opposite ways. Some women celebrate in the streets, crying tears of relief and hope, but others are not celebrating at all. Because surviving without men and actually wanting to is a very different question. You sit alone that night and think about all the men in your life. You think about your father, the way he used to call you every single morning just to check if you were okay. You think about your brother, the one who always made you laugh even on your worst days. And you realize something that no scientific discovery can ever replace. You miss them. You genuinely miss them. 1 week has now passed since the disappearance, and the world looks completely different from what it was just 7 days ago. Women have taken control of every single system that keeps the world running. But here is where things get truly fascinating and deeply unexpected. Without men, the rate of violent crime drops by nearly 80% overnight. Wars that have been raging for decades suddenly stop completely. Pollution levels begin dropping as heavy industries slow down without their male workforce. Even the oceans begin to recover as fishing fleets sit abandoned in their harbors. You step outside your home and breathe in the air. And even that feels different. Cleaner, quieter, more peaceful than you have ever known it to be. And yet, standing in the most peaceful world that has ever existed, you have never felt more alone. 1 year has now passed since the disappearance. The panic is gone, the chaos is gone, and a new world has fully taken shape. You wake up in a home that finally feels like home again. You get up, you get dressed, you walk to work, a job you never imagined yourself doing a year ago. You now lead a team of engineers rebuilding the city's power grid. The economy has stabilized. Food production has adapted. Technology has taken over the physical labor that once required brute strength. In many ways, the world is thriving, but not everything about this new world is as perfect as it looks. The birth clinics stand ready, but very few women actually walk through their doors. Something about it never felt quite right to most of them. Meanwhile, a young girl sits in a classroom and raises her hand. Teacher. What was a father? And for the first time, the teacher does not know what to say. You are invited to speak at the 1-year anniversary of the disappearance. You walk onto the stage. Thousands of women looking up at you. You look out at all of them. And instead of the speech you had prepared, you say something else. We survived. But survival was never the goal. We were never just trying to survive. We were trying to live. And somewhere in this new world, a single moment is about to change everything again. A baby is born, naturally, through means nobody can explain. A baby boy? The first one born since the disappearance. Nobody knows what it means. But for the first time in a year, the world holds its breath and hopes. Maybe the world was never meant to be ruled by one. Maybe it was always meant to be shared. And maybe, just maybe, balance always finds its way back.